Hello and welcome to Steve McDonald's Arts and Crafts. Today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be making a clock. So I've got this mould here, and what I intend to do is I intend to make this clock with cogs and things. So I've got these moulds as well that will make some cogs, and I'm going to make the cogs black and gold. So this is how I put the numbers into the little slots, and as you'll see, I've already started this because, like a fool, I hadn't realised I hadn't pushed record. So what I do is I just take a little cocktail stick, I dip it in my black resin, and this is just black resin that I've mixed up using mica powder. Now, I'm sure people would just paint the mica powder in here as it is, and then pour over the top of that, and that will work, but I personally prefer to do it like this because I feel it gives more of a solid edge. I'm not going to record the whole time me doing this. I will finish this off and then come back to you when it's done. Well, I've finished doing those now, and it didn't take long. It took me about 10 minutes, I think, to get all those numbers in there. I've got some black and gold resin mixed up, and I've just used mica to mix in with these. And what I'm going to do is I've got these beautiful little moulds. I'm going to be casting in these and letting that cure ready. So with this one, I'm just going to drop some gold in it into some different places, and you'll see why when it comes out. I want it to have a kind of a two-tone effect. I'm going to make some gold and black hands as well, and the hands is a really tiny, as you can see, little casting. So what I'm using is I'm using my stick and I'm pushing the resin in there as much as I can, and then I'm going to go over it with a scraper and then clean that off like so. There we go. And then again, if I show you on this one, this is quite a very shallow mould because obviously these are quite thin. So I'm putting a bit in. I'm making sure it's getting into all the little spokes. And I'm spreading this out. Then what I'm doing is I'm just cleaning off the top bits where I don't want the resin, because that is not, it's meant to look as if it's got holes in. I will take out any if there's excess, and there is excess. And as long as all the bits are filled in that are where I want resin, then I will get a good result. That'll find its own level now. Then with the black, I'm just going to pop some black in this one. And then once that's in there and that's finished and that's cured, that will still take, probably 18 hours to cure. So there we go, I've filled in enough now that I need. Now, I want to show you how these are mould because they are so thin, but it still works really well. See? Look how well that one's come out. And that one has come out. So even though you're really casting very thin, the thickness of what one of these cogs would be, they actually still come out very, very well. As you can see, I've now cast myself quite a nice selection of resin shapes in the mould, ready to put into the clock. I mix up my resin, and then I'm going to show you how I put them in without any floating to the top, and to ensure that they're in the right place. I'm going to be putting a small layer of resin in here before I put anything else in it. I want this to be about 2 to 3 millimeters thick, which is probably about just under half of the depth of this actual mould itself. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be picking up my tweezers and putting the little cogs in as I can and pushing them down, so if there's any air bubbles trapped under them, then they'll hopefully come out. Remember, the bottom of this mould is the face of your clock, so always make sure that if you're going to be putting something in, so let's go for instance that it would be no good putting it up that way because you're not going to see the detail on it, so you do need to put it in that way up. So I'm just going to let that sit there like that. Okay, I'm going to continue this and then we'll come back to this when I've got all the bits in that I want. We'll pour my last clear coat of resin over the top of that, and that way all these little cogs and everything will stay exactly where they are. They won't float up to the top, and they'll look like they're in the middle of the clock when it's finished. The clock has been curing now for 24 hours and it's ready to be demolded, and this is always the exciting part for me. So there we go, it's come out nice and clean. As you can see, it did pay off taking that extra time to get these letters. Maybe I should have done them in white. I'm not sure, it might have shown up a little bit more, but I really like the way that that's blended in there now, and it's all nice and clean, and there's very few bubbles in it either. So what we need to do now is to turn it into a clock. So I ordered these off Amazon, and I will put the links to everything that I've used in the description. And literally, they just come like this. So you've got all the bits and pieces that you need to use in there. What you need to do first, certainly for this one, is take these 3 bits out. And then you get a little rubber kind of gasket that you have to put onto the bottom like that way up. Okay, so it's that way up. Then you screw this into here. Now, if my hole is tight enough, I should be able to screw this through without too much problem. There we go, so that's in there nice and tight. Now, it doesn't really matter if it's not, if your hole is a little bit too large for this, because you do get this nut and washer that you can put on like so and tighten it up. Now, I would strongly recommend that you don't over tighten this, because if you do, then what will happen is you could risk cracking the resin. And then you get the hands as well. Now, these come with black hands. Always paint over them with a thin paint of any colour that you want. There is normally a protective film on these hands, which there is, and sometimes you can't actually see it. But it is worth just checking and taking it off, because you do get a much nicer finished hand. All you have to do is pop the hour hand on, and as you can see, this hour hand is a little bit long, so you can buy shorter ones, but I do tend to buy the larger ones. And what I will do is I will cut that down to ensure that I've got that at the right length that I want it. And they're really easy to cut down. All you have to do is mark where you want to cut it, get a pair of cutters, wire cutters or anything like that that you use to cut, and then just snip it. There we go. Then all you have to do is pop your hands on and make sure that they're all parallel to the whatever number you're using to start with. So there's my hour hand. There's my minute hand. That's on there nicely. And there will be my second hand. That will just go into that little slot there. And then all you need to do is pop a battery in. So, how do you hang this up? Well, that's really easy too. So I get these little kind of like D hooks that I will attach to the back of this, and I will attach it behind the one. So how I'll do that is I will use UV resin, but there's lots of other glues that you can use if you want to. And all I will do is I will put a little dollop of UV resin where approximately I want that. Make sure that that's down and that's level and that's far enough down, and it is. And then I will just set the UV resin like so, back from both the back and the front of the clock. And I have taken the battery out because I don't want the hands to be going round. There we go, that's nicely sealed on there, and that clock is now working. And if you've enjoyed this video, and you want to learn more about resin or how to use it or any tips and tricks, then please hit the subscribe button and the little bell so you'll get notifications when my videos come up, and enjoy your resining.